Hello, hello out there. We'll be starting in just a minute. AR and May, why don't you talk so we can check levels really quickly?
Good morning, everyone.
How's everyone doing? Good afternoon, I suppose, from my end.
Yeah, afternoon for me too. Let's see. That looks just about fine. Okay, we'll grab the levels and then we'll start. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, you guys ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, bleh. 1 second. Welcome to the With the Will podcast. We're here to inform and entertain about Digimon a little bit. I'm Mark, I run With the Will.
Adam from Digimon System Restore, now with Part 5 of Trial uploaded. I talk way too much about it.
And I'm May from Lost in Translation One, and I'm ready to talk about Appmon.
How have the last 2 weeks treated you guys?
I made a mistake, well, not really a mistake, but I have been looking online for lots of Digimon merchandise, and I don't know why, but it's killing me.
You see, May, it's not funny if I keep making the joke when you're really doing it.
I know, I can't stop.
Like, I get complaints that I'm being mean to you about it, but everyone doesn't get it. It's not really a joke. It's like, it's friendly ribbing that you're doing it.
Well, yeah.
Fun 2 weeks for me. Came back from out of town and fan broken, which, not a huge deal. And then last night my computer exploded.
Oh, that seems like a bigger deal.
Yeah, bigger deal. Pulled apart a few of the internal components and cobbled them back together, and we'll see how long the episode lasts before it explodes. So this might very well be the lost episode of the With the Will podcast.
Rest in peace, 20 episodes.
I was going to ask if the computer turned out okay if you're actually recording this on a really high-end calculator.
Close to. It's, I put some different pieces together and have a working computer for the time being. But we'll see.
Half-realize Rekomon!
But yeah, so we'll see what happened here. But it looks like everything's fine for now, but you never know. I think ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So first up, got the second and last volume of the manga, did the scans and breakdown, and I'm still really torn on the art for this, to be honest. Like, I like the art of the manga, but every once in a while, things just don't look right at all.
Yeah, it's just very a different style they've got going on there, especially on the covers.
Well, like, I'm still happy with, like, most of the character designs, but then you have stuff like Eugene, which just doesn't look right at all to me.
Yeah, he looks fairly different in the manga.
Yeah, but it's not even just the face, like, the hair, even the outfit doesn't look right to me. Although, for some reason, I love Gatchmon's face.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. And we're still hoping we'll hear about Appmon Gakuen, which I think I kind of expected to show up around when the 4th DVD box comes out, if at all.
Hope so.
And speaking about the DVD boxes, the 3rd one came out and did the scans and breakdown of that. And again, I really like the packages they've put together for these, even if they're not that fancy. Did you get yours, May?
Yeah, it arrived a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
With a bunch of other stuff.
So what color are we going to guess for Gaiamon in the last one? Yellow/gold?
Yeah, I would say that it's a pretty safe bet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very nice art. Again, Although I like that the art in the first two felt more like personality-wise for the characters, like they had more their own personalities.
Mm.
While this is kind of more generic action. And I'm still glad to get new art though. And we're on to actual news now. The last Battle Spirits accessory from the accessory pack was announced yesterday, if I remember. They've taken 3 old Battle Spirits cards and remade them with new Digimon art, and everyone's very surprised by who the art is of. Is anyone shocked that these are the 3 we got?
Oh yeah, it's the Wargreymon and Metal Garurumon and Megamon. We've never seen them before. Are you talking about the other another art or?
It's more shocking that it wasn't that. I don't think anyone actually thought it was going to be those 3 just because we already had them. But it's not that shocking. And Garm actually tracked down the original 3 cards, which were Dynaburst, Burst Wall, and Diamond Wall, which they've just remade them with the Digimon art. And that set's still up for pre-order until October 20th. I'm not getting... I think you were thinking of getting it, May?
I don't have the accessory set on pre-order, but I do have a box set that just came out in October. That's on the way to my house now.
Okay. And that may actually be it for the Battle Spirits news, because I don't think there's anything else we expect to hear about it. But we'll see. You never quite know. And they announced new I Love TERRIERMON Crane Game plushes, and I think these are the best looking ones yet, to be honest.
They're so cute.
They are cute.
Yeah, each of these is just a touch under 10 inches, and I'm not sure which facial expression I prefer, to be honest.
I like the smiling one.
I like the open mouth smiling one. Yeah.
I think the eyes work especially well on that one. But yeah, really do like it. It will be available on Crane Game in Japan starting October 24th, and shortly thereafter they'll start showing up on eBay and elsewhere. Do you think you're gonna get one of these, May?
I don't actually have any TERRIERMON plushies besides like the small keychain ones that they did I think a year ago. Because like I don't know, the Crane Game ones are always like super expensive on eBay, but now since I've started to like look on Yahoo auctions and stuff and use my my Japanese forwarding address, like I probably will pick maybe one up at one point.
Yeah,
probably.
It tends to be easier when you use Yahoo auctions, just price wise.
Yeah. Like they're always like about $100 on eBay.
Yeah, well at that point it's purely scalping.
Yeah, like very much so, and especially with like for some reason like some people put postage up far too high, like considering that it shouldn't be that high.
Well, because it helps hide the price in the listing.
Yeah,
but that's it.
And because eBay doesn't take a percentage out of the shipping, I think.
Yeah, they're nice plushes, and I like them. They look better than the other ones to me, just design-wise. I think it's because they shrunk his body a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and on to Tri. They announced and have started Tri Part 5 screenings with Natsuki Hanai and Daisuke Namikawa, who's Taichi and Daigo. And since a few of them have already happened, we actually already have news from them. So first up, they announced the 4th week of Tri Part 5 in theaters, along with the theater gift, which is a postcard drawn by Kenji Watanabe, which just looks fantastic.
So cute.
That's so Yeah,
I mean, I believe he's done most of the week 4 ones, but this one just looks great, and Garm translated it. Agumon says, "This angle should be about right. Your timing's great." Tailmon comments, "Agumon, that's kind of how you are, aren't you?" And Tentamon, "Do you really need to practice for this?" This is great. And they also talked about recording. They talked about a blooper from Part 1. They gave no helpful information about Part 6. Basically,
just the fact that they said anything about Part 6 is reassuring.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like just the vibe I got looking at some of the live tweets about it was just like they said a little bit about Part 6.
Yeah, my understanding is the entirety of Part 6 was look forward to it and it's coming next year.
Yeah.
That's basically the entirety of that.
Mm-hmm. But just the fact that it's still out there and still going to happen even though it's an eternity away.
Yeah. But I mean, it's only been 2 weeks since they said it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like when we didn't get an initial date for Part 5 and people were looking for information like they said it's coming out in 2017. It's like they said that a week ago. We don't need to worry about them changing stuff quite so soon.
And an early summer-ish of 2018 is a lot more specific than 2017.
Yeah, it's specific enough that it makes me think they probably already know what's coming out. They just want to see what else is going to be coming out at that point.
Yeah, it could be.
But yeah, that's it for those. And we have new Animedia art, and it's Halloween-themed art. And I really like it, but I don't know why, but it seemed like there were a lot of complaints about this one, and I don't know why.
I mean, it looks fine. It just seems like territory they've kind of done before.
Well, the main complaint seemed to be that why is everyone a vampire? It's like, it's fun. It's fun. I mean, I won't say it's special compared to some of the others, but, you know, I like Gomamon with the little, the popped collar, sort of.
Yeah, Gomamon's cute. Like, we've seen Yamato as a vampire before, though.
Yeah. But more exciting from the same issue, the 5th Try tribute image by Sota Kuwahara.
I always forget about these until they show up and go, oh, wow, that's so nice.
It is so nice.
More amazing is how it seems like every time more and more people finally start noticing the pattern, also. Is each one's based on the last film.
Yeah.
Minus the first one, which was just tried generically.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the first one that isn't like a more overall group shot to some degree, though.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I like seeing, like, and you know, they haven't used every character in them, but I like seeing the larger shots. But this one's nice also. I'm trying to think what's the next one's gonna be. There's some good potential for that one.
It'll probably just be Mako.
Well, Mako was also in the Part 2 one, so they might. I'm trying to remember who hasn't really featured in one. Because Hikari sort of was featured in one of them. Like, she was sort of front and center in one of them already. So it really could go in any direction.
Probably Taichi. I don't think he's actually been... But of course...
Yeah, Taichi's never been center stage on any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at these other ones, one was sort of everybody with kind of Hikari, I'd say, in the more prominent position. Mako certainly was on the first one. Mako, Joe, and Mimi in the one, and Takeru in another one. So I could definitely see Taichi, Yamato.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it was Sakari and Mako, though, since they are, like, the Part 5 characters.
Taichi did kind of steal the show, though.
Yeah, but he stole the show in moments, not overall theme, though, I'd say. Okay, that's it for that. Shout put up a English trailer for Try Part 3 on home video along with 7 clips. It's hard to comment on it because it's exactly what we expected. It's a couple months early, and
yeah,
I mean, it's one of those things where it's very nice to get, but it's 2 months out. We know it's coming, and I don't think there's much more to say on it for now, minus that I'm sure May would like an Australian release announced.
I just want an Australian release announced of Try Chapter 2.
Oh yeah, I forgot. They haven't even announced that for you guys yet, have they?
No! And like I asked Madman who publishes it, and they're like, yeah, we don't know. We don't have a date.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nothing confirmed.
Well, that is the official anime company response. If you ask something they haven't announced, they're not gonna tell you.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of con questions. When will this show come out? Someday.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. They didn't even say someday. They just said, oh yeah, nothing confirmed. We don't have anything.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's rough. But like, we were lucky enough that one of our listeners gave us a digital download code of the Try Chapter 2 so we could cover it on the podcast, because otherwise I have a feeling we wouldn't have been covering it till next year. because usually Madman likes to announce things like a month or two in advance before the release. So if they announce it this month, it may not come out till December. If they announce it next month, it might not come out till January. So that's rough.
So basically, it needs to be announced so I can track down a Hugh Jackman image to put in the news. And more Try USA news. Toei is now teasing a Part 4 release of Try Part 4 via YouTube.
That's good.
And that's good. People are arguing with them about it.
Oh.
As
what are they arguing about?
Yes, I don't know why you're saying this is coming soon. It's already out. You're 6 months too late, and so forth. And Toei's response is just Toei's response is literally just you'll see and stuff like that. And then people are still arguing with them based on that response.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, and I mean they're not saying what it is, but yeah, it's hopefully a licensing announcement sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah, they're referring to presumably Shout Factory continuing the English releases.
Yeah. And next up, Digimon Lynx is out.
Yay!
Basically everywhere at this point.
Yeah, I'm literally playing it right now. I can't stop.
Not everywhere.
Almost everywhere.
Yeah. My friends in Brazil are still waiting.
Yeah. I'm still not sure if I like it or not. It's fun to play, but there isn't really as much to do as I expected.
Yeah, it's very kind of repetitive. You get into the routine of what you're trying to do, and every day you get you go for your different ultimate and a different.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just not 100% sure how long this can keep my attention, at least. I mean, we're 2 weeks in May. How's your attention holding up on this?
I'm a big sucker for daily quests or daily things that come out, or even events, and I think it will hold my attention for a couple of months at least. They'll have to continually update it, and I'm assuming that they will. But I'm really enjoying it. I like the quests. I wonder if there's going to be a Halloween or Christmas themed thing. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I just really like it.
Yeah, it's fun to play. It's just one of those things I just don't know how long I can go on. I guess I expected there to be an actual story or something. And they set up that there's one, and then they sort of never mention it again, at least in what I've done.
Right. Yeah, see, I was kind of working on stuff for the last couple of weeks, so I'm just starting to really, really attack it as far as pursuing ultimates and stuff. So I'm still kind of getting into it. So I think I can go for a little while longer. But yeah, at some point I'm sure it'll slow down, especially if I get through all the normal quests in time.
Yeah, I think I'm on World Area 20, I think.
Yeah, see, I'm only on Area, I think, 9 there, so I got a ways to go before that'll start to bore me.
I did all the normal quests in the first couple of days.
Oh.
I can't stop.
Yeah, that's it for Lynx. I mean, we know there's more models in the international version, in just the mutants are already in there, just not accessible as far as I'm aware. So those will probably show up soon. Yeah.
I want Mekumon.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I honestly thought Dracomon was going to be a kind of a special one, but no, he just shows up normally.
Yeah.
Well, he's one of the best Digimon, so...
He is, and I got him, and I'm really happy about it. Except he's a rookie, so he instantly becomes Cordramon, after you level him for a second.
If they're smart with Mekumon, it's going to show up, right when Tri Part 3 comes out, or something along those lines.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And next up, they announced the details for the Hacker's Memory 20th Anniversary box, and holy shit, it's actually good.
Yeah, that artwork. Wow, that artwork.
Yeah, that artwork may be one of those times when you kind of have to sit back and go, that may be a step overboard, maybe.
It's so good. I'm so glad that I have it on pre-order.
I didn't think that was official when I first saw it.
Yeah, that seems...
that is some wonderful Cyber Sleuth fan art.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems to have generally been the response is basically been, wait, that's real? I mean, it's good art, but like, if you just look at the hacker's memory side, it's like, wow, that really makes sense. And then you look at the normal side of the slide and you're like, wow, they really gave him a lot of freedom at what he was allowed to draw, huh?
Ami and Nokia are good friends.
And then the art book looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been art releases of most of this stuff for all the games. 170 pages. I mean, that's great.
They're throwing Ko some love. Holy crap.
And can we talk about just how amazing the NX style models for Alphamon and Dukemon are?
Yeah.
Like the picture of the NX Alphamon just following Keisuke, and it's just like
so funny.
I don't think anyone expected them to be like small. I just expected them to be the proportions.
Yeah.
And it's just like he's like crotch height, and it's just hilarious seeing him standing there.
Now the question is, does he have all the powers of regular Alphamon? That's what we need to know.
I would be shocked if he doesn't, but we'll see.
What if he has all the powers and strength of Alphamon, but he's in a smaller size? So like,
small.
Yeah, so he's small, but he has like the exact same strength as Alphamon. So he's got like this, like if he punches you, like it's a tiny little punch, but it does as much damage as a giant Alphamon.
Yeah.
I really hope these don't have any. I really hope these don't evolve because I would hate to lose these.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if it's just like it turns into regular Crimson mode or something.
Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? It includes a soundtrack CD with 16 tracks. I almost would have preferred like an MP3 CD, which is like a full soundtrack, to be honest. Like for a game when 16 tracks just comes across more as a sampler to me. And the big surprise is the TV Anime Sound Edition, the version of the game included with it, includes 2 songs from everything Adventure through Cross Wars, and it is nice to see Cross Wars included.
Yeah, I really like Never Give Up.
I understand why it's not ever included, but it's really nice to see it. The only complaint that I really have is, shouldn't it be We Are Cross Heart X7? It's just such a more epic version of the song.
Yeah, no, I do like that version better,
but I like that they kept
fine.
it. Yeah, you do the normal ones for everything.
Yeah,
like they're not messing around with all the remixes for Braveheart and that.
Yeah, true. And so December 14th in Japan, and a lot of people seem to want to import it just to get that art book. Like I don't think I've ever seen so many people wanting to jump at what is basically a $100 pre-order just for an art book.
Yeah.
But it's also unique in that, like, even with the Blu-ray boxes, the booklets are just reprints of previous material that's been reformulated. A lot of this is stuff we've never really gotten good looks at before. And I mean, they haven't confirmed it yet, but that cover image is nice. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, they haven't really said that's the cover, but I'm not sure what else that would be.
Maybe it's a poster inside it. That would be fun, too.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. The only issue I have with that as a cover is where are they going to put the logo? Oh, wait. You know what I think?
Put it above...
No, I think I know what it is. It's the cover underneath it, like a slip cover.
Oh, yeah.
Because the slip cover is the logo with all the sprite artwork. So I think that's going to be one of those, yeah. So
and they also do it, and they also have it sort of where all the original Cyber Sleuth characters are kind of on the right and the Hacker's Memory characters are on the left.
Well, no. I mean the art book cover.
Oh.
With the Dawn Dusk characters.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I think that will probably be under slipcover. But the actual box for the collector, for the whole edition, I love that the art's been formed in such a way that at the front, it is just a Hacker's Memory box.
Yeah.
Like, that is really good placement of everything. But yeah, that's it for Hacker's Memory for now. I'm sure we'll see it again. And next news was a bit of a surprise to everyone. Appmon's beginning in France and Hong Kong this month.
Yeah, it begins, I hope.
Yeah, in France, it will be airing on channel Boing as Digimon Appmon. They're premiering the first episode on October 21st with its proper run beginning on the 23rd. And in Hong Kong, it's going to be on channel TVB as Digimon App Generation in Cantonese on October 26th. And I like the Hong Kong title much better than the French title.
Yeah, I prefer the Hong Kong title. The French one's like just a bit plain. It's just like Digimon Appmon, but it's still fine. Like it's a good beginning.
I'm not sure. I don't like putting Digimon and Appmon right next to each other.
Well,
you can call it one or the other.
The French title sounds very much like what you would expect from a generic English title that they give it to sell the show.
Yeah.
While App Generation sounds very much more like a licensee came up with a better title.
Mm-hmm.
Because that does work really well, I think.
Yeah.
And that's it for that. And do you think like this is the beginning of the floodgates, or is this all we're going to hear for a bit about this?
I think it's the beginning. Like, to have them both announced on basically the same day. I think it's the beginning,
well,
and I think
also, do we believe it's coincidence that this all came up right as Appmon ended?
I think that's good timing.
Yeah, I think this is part of the plan.
I have a question. Like, what does the usual anime series start in America? Like, whenabouts would that be if you were to start a new kids anime? Is that any
whenever?
It doesn't really exist like that anymore, to be honest.
It's not a thing. They start it whenever they want to.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, technically you'd say fall or summer, but it doesn't really exist like that anymore for more year-round type TV.
I also feel like if they were actually recording it in English, we would have heard murmurs about it by now. Maybe not anything official.
To be fair, they were actually recording Try a lot earlier than we had murmurs of it. We only started getting more solid murmurs because some people weren't aware they weren't supposed to talk about it. But there were some. But there were some tryouts and recordings being done like January or February. Like we didn't hear stuff in any real way for quite a while, minus the smallest hints.
Yeah, I mean, I heard like maybe a couple very, very minor things, but
like
we've heard nothing about.
Well, but it also depends. It's also in retrospect. In retrospect, certain things were obviously people talking about Try, and you know, like when you have like just like Brian Beacock saying he's going for a role he really wants. That could be nothing, or a few months from now we could find out that was him trying out for Appmon, for all we know.
Yeah, but that's the kind of murmur I'm talking about.
Yeah. And on to the actual topic, which is Appmon is over, and it's time to talk about it a lot.
Yay!
Yes. So who wants to start and where?
We could start like a bit on the beginning, like how it had a pretty strong start, like. I still think episode 4 is one of the best episodes.
Yeah,
episode 4 just had that really good action sequence. Like the first half of the episode didn't do a whole lot for me, but that action at the end is just something we've never really seen before. With the kind of ingenuity they used to get past Scopemon.
Yeah, that was done. Honestly, it's hard for me to talk about episode 4 without talking about the best part, which is the pumpkin costume.
Yes, that was great.
It was cute, yes.
Yeah, and of course everyone thought he was in 2 costumes.
I still think Haru did kind of a cop-out that his Halloween costume was basically just wearing the goggles. Like, I'm going to pull the goggles over my head, and that's my eyes, and that's going to be my costume.
Yeah. You know, now that I think about it, they introduced Navimon in, like, kind of an important way, and I'm not sure they ever really did much with him, now that I really think about it.
Yeah, I kind of did miss how, like, Navimon had, like, this character, and they were kind of, like, Gatchmon and Navimon were arguing, and then they didn't quite kind of go anywhere with that.
And then they brought it back one time towards the end, and then that was sort of just it.
Yeah, Appmon did a lot of things where they just sort of introduced a concept. We kind of liked the concept, and then they just didn't do anything with it. ever again.
Yeah, that's what was interesting.
Appmon did that a lot.
Well, that was one of the things I was thinking about. Like, they do that with Eri, where that's not really how she's supposed to be. It's a character, but I'm not sure we ever really meet the real person, do we?
Yeah, we meet the real Eri. I think that's sort of
no, I mean
it's both her idol persona, and it seems to me like kind of a defense mechanism for her. Yeah. To react like that.
But that's what I mean, though. Like, we get hints and we see the real person, but I'm not sure she ever is just acting as her. Where with like with Astra, we get a lot of stuff where he is thinking about who he wants to be and who he is.
I mean, I really liked whenever we got shots of like the Eri that wears glasses, and because I really wish we got more of those shots, because she does wear glasses, but we saw her in her idol personality much more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm not even. Do they ever reference the fact that sometimes she has glasses and sometimes she doesn't?
I thought that was part of her disguise.
Yeah, I thought that. I always thought it was like.
But sometimes,
like she's trying not to stand out.
But sometimes she is I believe sometimes she is wearing them in the clubhouse, though.
I think it's because I think it's because she actually does have poor vision, but it sort of like would impact her, I guess, personality.
Oh, and we should probably mention, if you haven't finished Appmon and you don't want spoilers, you should probably leave.
Yeah, because it's a very good season.
Yeah, yes. But Eri definitely isn't going to wear glasses when she's being an idol, because that's not her gimmick. That's Alice's gimmick, and that she doesn't want to infringe on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's not going to step on Alice's toes.
No. Although, are you surprised that the other idols don't really show up all that much?
I don't think there's room for there to be.
They showed up about right for me. Like, they're sort of both serving as the other idols and the Eri's friend characters. So they showed up when they needed to.
Yeah, oh no, I'm not saying they needed to show up more. I'm just kind of surprised they didn't have more appearances in a plot or two. Like, minus, like, really, really background appearances, I think they show up maybe twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just kind of interesting to me. And we should probably talk about Haru, since the show is really, really, really about him. Like, probably to a degree, I'd probably say more so than most Digimon shows are. Like, it really is the Haru show.
I wouldn't say necessarily that it's more than other shows. I think Savers might be a little more Masaru-centric than Appmon is Haru-centric, but no, I mean, Haru is... I mean, he's definitely the main character of the show, but I wouldn't say that it diminishes what Eri, Astra.
Oh no! I'm not saying it's Haru and friends. I'm just saying that, like, he is the character in ways that the franchise doesn't always quite do.
But he doesn't really feel like that until, like, the final act of the show. Like, between all that, like, early on, there's a lot of focus on everyone else initially, and Haru's just sort of.
I think it's more that he's a
sort of team.
I think
he's team leader, but not really showing a whole lot of interest outside of Appmoning.
No, I think it's more that he's a subtle character. Like, he's written reasonably well for being that type of subtle character, because normally they kind of just fade into the background when characters are written like that.
Oh, he is, but no, Haru is written fantastically.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really come into his own and have his own arc until towards the end of the series. That's when he really starts to stand out, and that's when he gets his proper character arc, where Eri and Astra are sort of intermittent throughout the series.
I think Haru has more character arcs early on than you'd think, because it jumps between stuff, and a lot of times it's smaller stuff that he's doing rather than larger stuff. Like, you have him sitting back reading the books on artificial intelligence.
Well, he's doing all that.
Or him worrying about specific plot elements that are happening.
Yeah, he's doing all that and he's developing, but I wouldn't say that he's necessarily the focus while he's doing that. This is sort of stuff that he's doing in the background, which is great.
Know. He still kind of feels like the focus to me, to be honest. Like, he's the one who tends to push things forward, even if the heavier plot type stuff is other characters.
Yeah, I agree with AR. Like, it doesn't feel as heavily like the Haru show as previous seasons.
Yeah.
I do admit, like, the first couple of episodes before we met the other characters, it was like he is the only main character.
Yeah,
for sure.
But compared with Savers, which is definitely like everything's very Masaru driven, which is fine because I love Masaru and I do like the other characters too. But Savers is very like, this is Masaru's story and he has family values and he's like all about his family and also all about being like a man. He's all about his dad, and it's like it's very much Savers is very much just like the story of Masaru.
Yeah.
And I think Tamers is also not entirely about the main character of the show. It's sort of like the same as Appmon, where we have characters about, like, we have Juri and we have her story and we have her issues with her mum, and we have Ruki who has her own issues with family and how her dad abandoned her and she was like maybe not feeling good enough and she always wanted to be better. And that was very like, it wasn't just the Takato show, because Takato didn't actually have much story in Tamers. He was just like, he started as a cinnamon roll and then he became like a slightly older cinnamon roll by about like, a couple of months.
And Takato, sort of in the same way that Haru did, Takato sort of grows into it towards the end when he realizes that he's the one who has to do this. He's the one that has to, in particular, rescue Juri.
See, I think it's
Takato gets it in the end, but there are a lot of places in the middle where it doesn't really feel like it's so much about him.
I'm not. Yes. I'm just not sure I agree with that, because to a degree, it's also more, Haru's a bit more proactive in deciding he was going to be part of it.
Yes, well, and he's a lot more active, yeah.
Yeah, and he's always the one that's focused on, you look back at the New Year's episode where they all have their initial wishes and Eri once is focused on being an idol and Astra's focused on app tubing, and Haru's like, I want to stop Leviathan. Like, let's have some, like, he's the one, his eyes are on Leviathan the entire time, and that's an important role for a character to have, especially the leader character. It's just not always the center of attention, especially in the first half of the show.
Half on that one, I guess.
I mean, the story does end up being Haru's story. Like, the end of it is sort of like the last episode is a Haru episode, but we also have Eri and Astra who had their episode, like their story arcs. We had Astra who's like, I want to be an app tuber, but like I also just kind of like want to go on and do the family business thing, but I can do both.
But that's also the other thing, though, is that doesn't really change for Astra at any point.
Yeah.
Like, they give us they give us the finale aspect of it around, it was like episode 47 or so. But nothing really changes for him in that's already what he decided, basically, from the second episode we met him where they clarified that. Anytime they went back to do an Astra episode, it was just re-clarifying something we already knew.
Yeah, and that's something of a complaint I have. I didn't really like the way Astra's overall arc was handled, particularly because I didn't get the sense of his enthusiasm for tea ceremony. We saw it, in a couple little spots, but there isn't really a moment where you really can tell that he is passionate and in love and dedicated to tea ceremony.
I think that's
way he is always focused on being an app tuber.
I think that's more of a cultural thing, that it's just who he is, but he also wants to be that, and it was more a matter of, could he do both? Yeah. And that's where... Yeah. Now, the problem is they sort of introduce specific elements of it that they then ignore because they just don't have the time to spend on it. Stuff like that he was only, in theory, supposed to spend half an hour a day.
I would have liked to see him doing both more often. Like, we see enough of him being an app tuber. I wanted to see him doing more day-to-day tea ceremony.
But the problem is there isn't time for that. Because
they had time for a lot of stuff. They did a lot of faffing around.
But that's what I mean. That's what the character's position is. He is the character sort of being wacky. There isn't really time to dedicate to show him being serious, because in the next scene he would be back to being wacky. So they I wanted to see more of him being both.
personally.
See, I just don't see that they had the time or the energy to spend on it. They spend it on it when they do stuff like having him think about it. I just don't think there was the time to spend on it, on him sitting around. They show it in flashback a few times and they sort of just move on from it.
Well, although, I definitely disagree with the assertion that Appmon didn't have time for anything, because one of my big criticisms with Appmon is they wasted a lot of time.
Well, every show wastes a lot of time.
I think Appmon wastes more than any other season.
The thing I really like about it is that whenever they were doing something, like, take for example episode 45, which is the Agumon episode, they're doing all the Agumon stuff, and then Ray's just saying, hey guys, don't we have, like, Leviathan to worry about? Like, shouldn't we be caring about that? And I love that whenever there was like a filler episode, like fairly late on in the season, which didn't happen that much except for the Agumon one, we had Ray just sort of saying, but guys, we have like a mission now? Don't remember that?
Well,
I wrote in my blog that Ray is allergic to filler. Like, he deliberately avoids filler. Like, there was that run of filler right after Offmon was introduced where Ray just sort of disappeared and wasn't in the picture. Yeah, and maybe that's why, because he knows it's filler and he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to have any part of it.
It's more you don't have anything to do for the character to do in those episodes.
But
and the whole time.
Like Ray as a character is actually rather kind of thin. He has his main background plot, and then they don't really have a place for him in the show in general.
And that's why putting him in an uncomfortable situation, like, I really wanted to see that, and I'm glad they finally got him in that uncomfortable situation eventually.
Yeah, that was literally that they needed to have someone do it, and by having it be him, it's funnier because we know he takes everything way too seriously, and there are a few episodes at the end, all joking aside, it almost fucking turns into a Hanna-Barbera cartoon a few times. Like, especially the Rescue Astra episode.
Yeah.
I really love that episode. It was probably one of the best episodes of filler, because it wasn't really filler because it was the end of his arc.
I mean,
I liked it.
That episode,
solid. It was good filler, yeah. But it was, I still considered it filler.
See, I don't think it was filler because that really does, like, finalize the stuff for him, like that character's plot. It's filler in the overall plot of the series, but not for that character. That is where that character's arc ends. But it is really weird in that it kind of does not feel like the show at all. Like, they have the temple, which is up on the rock in the middle of nowhere. It's based on Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Like, you have Musimon going around in the bush. It literally turned into an episode of Scooby-Doo.
A little bit, yeah. And that was sort of...
Like the dog...
I'm not sure how I felt about going in that direction. Although, on the plus side, it did get a lot of the other Appmon involved in the rescue, which that I did appreciate.
But the dogs are chasing them around, and they're subtitling the dogs.
That was hilarious.
That was great.
I love that.
Oh, no, I absolutely loved it, but it was just very strange in that it's almost like they decided, this is the end of Astra's story, but we've already sort of dealt with it, so we're just going to have it be really wacky. The only thing they did too much was they telegraphed a little bit too much who the only two people to ever escape were, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, that part was kind of predictable, but, like, you know what? I really liked it. Like, even though I was like, oh, well, that's clearly going to be the case.
Yeah.
And you know what? When they revealed it, they still did it in a way that was sort of like, and then they added to it, like, the place was on fire.
Yeah, that... There's a lot of stuff...
We're not going to talk about that.
The whole thing was on fire.
There's a lot of stuff in Appmon that is very, very good and very interesting, and they never comment on it at all.
There's a ton of stuff in Appmon, like I said, that they add some really interesting concepts that they just abandon them.
Yeah, I don't really mind that, though, especially in an weekly kid show. It's almost expected to some degree that it will happen like that.
But I mean, when you have stuff like insertion was a really interesting concept.
Insertion.
They use
insertions
twice.
No. Insertion they use quite a bit. They don't use the real version of insertion. I think they only used it once.
No, they use insertion Not just the regular default duo beginning, but additional insertion to get that extra power boost. They used it twice, and one of them was a robot.
Yeah, but no. I mean like the full-on crazy version of it. They only used that once, and they never really suggested you could do it like that in the first place. I don't think. It just sort of happens, and they explain it as it's happening.
Yeah, but once you use that, it's like you need to explore what insertion does and what it means and the sort of sacrifice that you make while doing it.
I don't think there really is any sacrifice. It's just giving up energy. I don't think there's anything beyond that, to be honest.
Right, but I wanted them to explore the idea of giving up energy a little bit more, and it's like they just sort of didn't go anywhere with that. It didn't even come into play in the final battle.
Yeah, I just don't think there was any point to doing it at that point.
Then why did they have it at all?
Because they need because it's literally the anime plot of they're going to lose and they need a power boost, and because they've already set that up in the plot as something that can be done, they're just doing it to the nth degree.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of weak to me.
Nah, it's not weak to me because it's to some degree it's expected what's supposed to happen. I mean, it's sort of like, is anyone really going to be shocked when Goku gets a new form in Dragon Ball?
He gets a new form, dude. Spoilers.
But that's what I mean. It happens so often. I'm not saying it's not problematic, but to suggest that it was going to happen some other way or should have, it was never going to be anything else, or it would have just been the power of friendship. There was never going to be any standing around explanation of what was happening.
Right, but if they're not going to, explain it a little better, I think it's fair to criticize for it. Like they just have this random power boost.
I'm not saying it's not fair to criticize it. I'm just saying it was never going to be anything else other than a quickie power boost. There wasn't going to be any standing around explaining the deep concept of giving up power. Yeah. That was just never going to happen.
And I'm saying that's a missed opportunity.
I really don't think it is, because I just don't see it as necessary to stand around and go, and he gave him his power, which meant that he was tired and drained, and they showed him tired. They said he was tired. They said he was nearly dead. It just wasn't necessary to really go beyond that, I don't think.
Yeah, I guess I'd rather have them go beyond that.
It was just never anything I expected to happen in any form, to be honest. It's just not the way it happens. It's sort of like, and honestly, had they gone into it, I probably would have been disappointed. It's sort of like any time they go back to Spider-Man being bit by the spider. We don't need to know that it was really a magical spider that was dying and gave him powers, and it was a radioactive spider, it bit him, move on.
So any other specific questions about... we got plenty other places on Appmon to talk about.
I was just talking about in the chat how the Apply Drive toy actually had like this thing while you're Applyrizing an Appmon, and if you just press the I think it's the App Fuse button like a couple of times, it just says burst mode, and that was never in the show.
Savers.
Yeah, but I was kind of like waiting on that. I mean, I guess we kind of like with the duo Applyrise, like we sort of saw them almost sort of go burst mode because they were shining.
What you had with that is that Minerva power they got at the end there, I guess, could sort of qualify for that. Like, didn't Minerva sort of use the last of her energy towards the end to give them all that extra power boost they needed to beat Leviathan?
I don't think it was the last of her energy. I think she did it and then she just got killed right after.
Well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
She gave them a power boost and then Leviathan killed them.
Yeah, I don't think they I guess that is like the easy thing to assume is like that was her, like she was basically gonna be gone anyways, but they don't really comment on it, and then the satellite's just blown up.
Yeah.
So Hyper Mario.
Oh, that was great. No, you mean Mari.
Happy Mike.
Yeah, and every time they're going to say it, the person gets cut off, or in one case, Ray grabbing him by the mouth. which worked really well, I thought. Although, I'd say my biggest issue with Appmon is when they introduce a really, really, really obvious trope into it, I'm not sure it really works in the context of the show. The idea that everything was just Leviathan.
Yeah, that I had issues with.
It comes across very much as this is the plot that comes up in shows at the end, that it was really just the bad guy at the end. I'm just not sure it works if you really look at the show.
It being responsible for it, it explains some of the stuff that was kind of formulaic, like the Ultimate 4 arc. Like, that felt so weird and so formulaic
in some way. It's one of those things where
that part I didn't mind, but when it gets back to the first half, like Leviathan was responsible for everything that happens in the first half. No, it wasn't.
It's one of those things where if you were to say Leviathan was pushing things a certain way, that's one thing. But they basically say that he set up everything, and certain events don't make any fucking sense if he did.
Right.
Like powering up TERRIERMON.
Oh yeah, well. The big one I look at, the two real examples that really bug me about Leviathan potentially being responsible for them, and knowing what its purpose was to guide the kids along the way, was the Rashomon, the train episode where it's about to drive dozens of people off of a monorail, including the robot. That's working for Leviathan. There's no guarantee
there are multiple.
that Haru and Yujin are going to save them.
But we saw that there are multiple Yujins. Like, there are there are different models. So just kill one, bring back another one. It's fine.
Yujin dies in the fire and then just comes back a couple weeks later. Yeah, I'm fine.
Of course, the other thing is that it was just a lie to fuck with them.
Also, that Scopemon episode that we all love, that Haru's ingenuity in finding a way to beat Scopemon. It sort of takes the sting out of it when you realize that Scopemon was letting Haru win. Like, that's the
I don't take it as hyper literal that way. Even if we're supposed to take it as serious, I take it as that Leviathan knew Haru would come up with a solution. I don't take it quite as hyper literal as every enemy was in on the plan and so forth.
It's still
Oh no, I agree. I just, even if it's true, I don't take it as hyper literal as every enemy was in on every aspect of the plan. Like, there were enemies who were going all out on them, period.
Yeah. Okay, but even then, it still looked like it was only to explain some of the conveniences and contrivances that we'd already kind of accepted.
I like that they tried to find an explanation for that. That was really cool.
I'm honestly still not convinced it wasn't just a lie to fuck with them.
The thing is, it didn't even fuck with them because they didn't really react to it. Like, the kids don't feel at all delegitimized.
But that's what I mean. At that point, the plan is in motion. It's an attempt to do anything you can to play mind games because you're already there. It's just, and remember, at that point, Leviathan is making mistakes in just basic planning towards the end. Like, Leviathan clearly, like,
that's a possible alternate theory, and I think I kind of like that one better. That that Leviathan says that he's responsible for everything, and the kids just don't believe it.
Well, that's the thing.
That works better than if they did believe that Leviathan was responsible for it, they might have reacted a little bit.
I think I tend to believe that, if only because too much at the end happens that shows that Leviathan isn't quite as clever as he thinks he is. And I think in the
last episode, and I'm glad the last episode showed that. They made a good point of showing that, where it's kind of like, okay, you see Leviathan systems going, okay, this is not going according to plan, this is not right.
And he clearly has no clue what to do. It never occurred to him
it goes into emergency protocols that it does not have. It does not have a plan C and D, or like after plans A and B start to fail.
Or like, as Digimon says, it clearly never even occurred to the Leviathan that giving himself a body is literally giving himself a weakness he did not have.
For sure.
Yeah, because we still got Minerva asking him the question, and he grew a human heart and actually cared for Haru, and I think that's nice.
Well, no, that's not what was said, though. It was said
that's sort of a different. We can talk about Yujin in a moment, but I think specifically going to to Leviathan, because I don't think Eugen did a whole lot to undermine Leviathan.
Oh, that's
no.
right, yeah.
No, and Leviathan put in a lot of planning, but also and this is where he sort of fell on his own sword to a degree. He forgot that just because he's artificial, he's not perfect.
Yeah.
His planning is literally based around the idea that because he's an artificial intelligence, that he literally believes his planning is perfect in every way. And there was very basic things that he clearly did not plan for. But there's a lot of stuff at the end where little things start to show through that it feels like things weren't planned, in the sense of basic character things almost fell apart for me. Like like Appmon commenting how he couldn't stop Eugen. When did he try?
Appmon was sort of
like
in the end.
We get a couple flashes where clearly he's not sure what to do, but he still does it anyways. I would have liked at least one line of dialogue of him asking what's going on, because he clearly doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, he kills Bootmon pretty handily.
Well, to be fair though, that's not, you can't really kill an Appmon that way. So killing him isn't really a bad thing.
But you not kill an Appmon?
No.
We do see ghosts.
I know what you mean, but I mean you can't kill them in that specific fashion. It just turns them into the chip.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's just a cheap way to make sure Bootmon can't run off again.
A chip way.
Yeah. It's Eugen is claiming Bootmon's chip so we can use them to get Deusmon and all that stuff. But that's what I mean, is he doesn't, if Appmon was really trying to stop Eugen, maybe he would have protested a little more.
No. Yeah, I meant later on. I don't mean when he shot Mon at that point. But even stuff like Deusmon doesn't make any fucking sense in the context of the show. Like, they give you the whole explanation about them evolving. Deusmon just shows up. Like, where is he from? Like, I get that he's underneath the big red button, but...
I thought that was Bootmon's next level.
No, Bootmon fuses with Shootmon to be Rebootmon. Deusmon just... Because
Deusmon just shows up.
Bootmon opens up the big red button, and then Deusmon just appears.
Okay.
But they specifically include him in the group of Appmon were going to combine to make the god grades which Leviathan needed.
Yeah.
But why does Leviathan need the god grades in the first place? He was already doing his plan anyways.
I guess this is sort of where I'm coming down on the Leviathan controlled everything from the beginning. I find that Yggdrasil controlling everything in Tri is more interesting and works better than Leviathan controlling everything in Appmon.
Okay, but we don't even know if that's true in this case. But what I'm saying is
I'm reasonably confident based on what I've seen in Part 5.
I'm talking about Appmon.
Oh, no, assuming that actually was true, that Leviathan actually was.
But I'm saying...
I like your take on it.
But no, but I'm saying, why did he need the god Appmon at all?
No, I think that's
He's already more powerful than them, and they're already converting people into data without having them. What is the point of that part of the plan, is what I'm saying.
I think it was the idea that would allow them to kind of wipe the slate clean on humanity.
But he was already doing it. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is the cartoon Deus Ex Machina. That was going to happen. I understand that. I'm just saying, what was the point? He was already converting people into app data. Anyways. He was doing it.
I get where you're coming from.
He was doing it before Haru and Gaiamon ever showed up, in fact. So what I'm saying is what was the point of it? Like, I get it's to make him stronger, but it's one of those cases where it kind of goes back to that he's not as smart as he thinks he is because he wants to be more powerful, but he's already won. It's like someone needs that one more drip of energy. And if you didn't do it in the first place, you would have won quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
Although I would have liked to have seen more commentary, and I know they really didn't have the time for it. I would have liked to see more commentary at the fact that they pulled the Appmon out of the god grades. I found that interesting, and I knew they weren't really going to talk about it. I just found it kind of interesting.
It was interesting. I sort of accepted it.
So did I. It would have been interesting to comment that they're still there as god grades. At first they played them up as being energy ghosts, but then they were actually running around physically.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of interesting to me.
That episode 51 was weird. Well, it was sort of it had 48 through 52 were great. 51 had some weird stuff that I sort of had questions about, including, and that's the episode where they first suggested that Leviathan was controlling everything. So that was another one where 51 was weird. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Am I the only person disappointed that we didn't really get a bigger evolution sequence for the god grades?
I don't think they had time. I feel like some things in Appmon fell short because they ran out of time.
How do you get bigger than god grades, especially when you add them
No. I mean the actual sequence. I would have liked to have seen something beyond just the boom and they're there.
Oh.
I mean the actual evolution sequence.
I thought there was enough character reflection in those sequences that it worked for me.
No, see, I'm not interested in the reflection of the character reflection. I want the moment where they appear is what I mean. That moment sitting there watching when War Greymon and Metal Groomon first appear.
I gotcha.
I don't feel like that happened with the god grades. They sort of just showed up.
I get what you're saying. That sort of thing just isn't a priority for me. And when they did show up, just the massive scale of them impressed me.
See, honestly, the scale didn't impress me. The designs didn't impress me, to be quite honest.
The designs were, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I know what they were doing with the designs. I just don't like it. The idea was that these are supposed to be gods. They are not normal Appmon. They don't look like norm. If you look at Gatchmon and then Globemon and then Dogatchmon and then Globemon, you can sort of see where they're becoming more and more, but they still look like Appmon. These kind of don't, and that's the point. I just don't like it.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. Even with a case like Musimon, and I don't remember what the fuck his name is. What's his name as a god grade?
Uranusmon.
Yeah. It's minus some facial details. Was there anything of that character still there?
His facial expression, yeah.
But what I mean is his face was basically Musimon, but there was none of that theme of that character still there.
I think that's I think that's not the best example of that one. I think Poseidamon felt like nothing like Dokemon originally. I thought of all the god grades that Uranusmon was probably the most expressive and reminded me most of Musimon.
Yeah.
See, I felt like Hadesmon was the closest because he kind of looks like
Hadesmon was okay. Hadesmon was okay.
But it's I would have I get what they were doing. It just visually just didn't work for me. Minus maybe Gaiamon, maybe. And I feel like in that case, it's sometimes based on the pose he has.
Yeah.
But I would have liked visually something more, less an attempt to look like a god and just something more striking overall.
Okay.
That last fight was nice though.
Oh yeah. There's some really good fights in the end.
That is the one time I like the CGI designs in Appmon, but far too often feels like low frame rate crap. And we're they do a few basic animations for each one and that's it, and they're all kind of low frame rate. And even when they do Coachmon, they don't do him in CGI specifically because they have him doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I almost would have preferred they just stuck with normal animation until you hit the god grades because it worked there relatively well.
I could see that compromise, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where they did it to look neat, it just didn't work for me visually.
Because when you get into the next level grades, I forgot what the level above standard, or super grades were.
Yeah.
Super grades were, those don't look really like that impressive when they're in the CGI like that. Like, those didn't do a whole lot for me. It wasn't until you get those god grade fights that the CGI really.
Well, the problem is because it's like they wanted to do CGI, but they weren't willing to, like, and they did the model work was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the animation was all like 10 or 15 frames per second, so it's kind of stuttery. Like, it just doesn't look smooth enough to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it just didn't work for me for that reason. Like, and it bothers me because the designs of, like, the actual model work was fantastic in general.
Yeah.
And it just didn't match up with the actual animation.
So, let's talk about Eugen.
Eugen was something that I feel like they stuck in the first episode in case the show got canceled, and then they had to deal with it later on.
I'm kind of I get what you're saying. I'm not convinced.
No. Like that was the plan, but they only shoved it in there quite so early in such a way in case they needed something quick to throw for a finale. Because for it being such an important thing, they showed in episode 1, which is nice. Then they showed an episode like
13.
Around there, and then there is nothing up until Ray starts giving him the stink eye.
Mm-hmm.
Minus that I believe there was one mention about why didn't he just kill him. My issue is it's only a plot element when they have you staring at it and they tell you it's a plot element.
Mm-hmm. I'm not 100% convinced they knew what exactly they wanted to do with Eugen. They just wanted to introduce that concept, and then...
I think they knew that the plan was to make him an enemy of some sort.
Yes.
But the thing is like, if they had been told after episode 5 that the show was going to end at 30 instead for some reason, it could have just been, oh, that was just meant to focus in on Eugen knew what was going on, if they wanted to. They could have thrown out that plot very easily had they decided to. Because there's very little, minus maybe, like you said, episode 13, where they actually tell you anything until it happens.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they could have. I'm not sure if they could have thrown it out, and I'm not sure they would have. And I'm not sure I would have supported that. But they could have brought it back. They could have brought it to a climax sooner if they needed to.
Yeah.
That I agree with.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I thought Eugen was done very well. I thought they really sold the relationship. Well, the how rare they showed the red eye kind of worked in its favor because it was easy enough to forget that it was a thing.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think
so much that it was like it's not the front and center concern. Like you can still buy into the Haru-Eugen relationship while it's only in the back of your head that you goes, this is going to turn bad at some point.
See, I'm not sure it was ever in the back of my head because then, like you said with episode 13, they showed it in a much different way. That's meant to force you to focus in on it as something actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, you always know there's something going on, but you're still able to buy into the relationship as it is. Even knowing
I don't disagree, but that's also like the position of how that sort of thing works. It was always the idea is that you have to look at the character and go, okay, this is real, but something else is going on.
Yeah, I mean, you knew at some point something was going to happen. Yeah. But you can still.
Yeah.
You just still accept the premise they're presenting.
Yes.
And yeah, they even though the turn itself was kind of predictable, what they did after that I thought they handled very well. And that, Eugen kind of sort of turned, but it wasn't until the very end where Eugen basically does what his app drive question was. He saved Haru in the end.
Yeah. Not
necessarily by saving his life, but by saving him from having to make that decision and actually push the button.
I actually disagree with that for one reason, because he had already made the decision. He just hadn't pushed the button yet.
it's a big difference between between making the decision and confirming that he wanted to do that, which I thought it was important that Haru did come to that decision, but the fact that he didn't actually push the button, I think, kind of keeps his soul a bit clean.
I'm not sure it does, because at that point he had decided to push it. He was going to push it. The only reason he didn't was that Eugen stopped him. That's one of those things. That's one of those things.
He was definitely going to.
But that's what. But that's
that he didn't. The fact that he didn't have to.
See,
he doesn't have to look back and dwell on that going forward.
No, see, I think that says something about their friendship. I don't think it says anything specifically about Haru, because he was going to push it, and he knows he was going to push it. I don't.
No. He was. I'm totally agree that he was going to push it.
No, but that's what I mean. I think
it means a lot that Haru ultimately didn't have to.
I think that means more in the context of that their friendship was real, rather than anything about Haru not having to push it, though. Because Haru in his heart knows he was going to push it. There was no doubt. Haru knew he was going to push that button. I think it says more that their friendship was 100% real
that's an element of that too.
In that moment, his friend came back and stopped him.
But ultimately, he did give his life up for his friend.
Yes. Although, just go start up one of the old robots. It should be fine. So, we want to talk about the ending?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like the epilogue, you mean?
Yes. I love seeing people argue about how this is what had to happen or had to not happen, when the show really was not interested in telling us for a fact.
What do you mean, had to or not? What part?
At the very end, there are people arguing that it's very clear that it was a dream, or it's very clear that it was real. No, it's not.
Oh, it was a nice. It's meant to be ambiguous.
Yeah, well, it could also be, like, as I mentioned earlier, like how we saw other Eugen bodies hanging around. Like, it could just be one of those that were revived by Eugen's mum / maintenance person,
or Leviathan.
Or Leviathan.
Because remember, they do no. I meant they do give the little hint that maybe Leviathan did have a little bit of a heart.
Also, at the end of the manga, Leviathan installs himself on Haru's phone and they become friends. So it could just be Leviathan's good now.
It's Leviathan. I think I mentioned this in the chat at some point. I took that as Leviathan recognizing what human determination and being able to make decisions for themselves can contribute to society, which is one thing that Leviathan sort of overlooked through the whole process.
I saw it more, and of course they purposely don't tell us what Leviathan's thinking, they just give us ideas. It almost seemed to me more he wasn't sure if he'd win, so he'd give Haru a chance to win, but out of spite. Like, you either have to agree that I'm right, or you have to do this to win.
Which is, again, but that's sort of what I meant, is like he's giving a human the power to make a choice here.
But he's giving him the choice to prove his point, not really giving him a choice because he thinks that's what's going to happen.
Right. Like I don't think Leviathan knew what Haru would decide.
I think he had the expectation that it was going to go his way. Because here's the thing, he won. Regardless of anything, he had won at that point. I think he's trying to be spiteful, which I think is also saying more about what he is and what he could have been if he wasn't a jackass.
Yeah, I don't quite go with that interpretation, because I don't think Leviathan is ever truly. I don't think a Leviathan emotion registers for Leviathan because it is an AI.
Except we saw him with emotion earlier in that episode. We saw him scared.
Oh yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Scared there, but yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Okay. At that point, we had seen that the character does have emotion to some degree.
I just don't think that he would be. I don't think Leviathan would be give that much freedom to a human to make that choice.
But I think that's missing the point. Is it's not giving a choice if you are sure how he's going to choose.
That's why I'm not sure that he.
But that's what I'm saying. He thinks emotion is a weakness, and that emotion's going to make Haru pick the wrong thing and prove his point that humanity can't choose for itself because it's going to make the wrong choice.
Okay. Well,
do you get what I'm saying?
I disagree with it.
That in Haru's view, what Leviathan wants is bad, but Leviathan thinks he's going to pick it anyways and prove his point for him.
Yeah, I don't quite see it that way. Anyway, but the epilogue had a lot of cool stuff with it. Particularly, one is the fact that it didn't magically repair everything. I think that's one thing that kind of got lost in that everything still had to be rebuilt.
I don't think it got lost. I mean, they pointed out and then they just moved on from it.
It gets lost between everything else that's going on in that epilogue that we may not necessarily. I think that needs to be called. I think we need to call that out a little more.
I don't really think so because they mentioned it, they moved on, and I just don't think there was much to say about it. Minus that they just.
No. I'm not saying that it's worthy of deep analysis. I'm saying that we should recognize and that's kind of cool that they didn't just magically put everything back together.
But that happens in the other Digimon shows also, though, where they point out stuff's being rebuilt. That's not really new or different, though.
Yeah, but I think just the fact that Leviathan destroyed so much, it's worth saying. I think Leviathan's scale of destruction was a little wider than most of the other seasons.
But not in the sense of it being cartoony, in that he blew stuff up. They don't really qualify if anyone was really hurt, and then the city's being rebuilt. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's just they sort of still treat it in the cartoon way of, and now we're rebuilding.
The fun surprise with that is the I don't even know if it's only a surprise to certain people that the Appmon were still around. I thought that was really cool.
I like that because it does tend to be a theme too much in this type of show where then because the bad thing ends, the good things have to go back also.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that ending always tends to be.
If you're a kid watching it that's not necessarily familiar with the way Digimon has done things in the past, it just sort of course they're still around, and you don't really think and you don't have to think anything of it. If you're have watched previous Digimon series and it's like, so the Appmon had to go away eventually, and you sort of have that expectation in your head, and then it's like, no,
I don't even mean Digimon specifically. It just happens a lot in media.
Yeah, right. I'm just citing Digimon specifically because that's always how it ends.
Where I like that. Well, not always. Most of the time, though.
Well, right.
Yeah. Where it's nice that it's just there because there is no reason for that, especially when they've set them up so deeply as being integrated into that world, and it's not like they in the show they tell us that Appmon in and of themselves have nothing to do with Leviathan.
Yeah.
So it was nice for them to not do the and Leviathan's destroyed, so a portal opens up and they all get sucked back in, and maybe they'll see them again someday.
Also, it's a reminder that Appmon is fundamentally based on app technology. App technology is not going away anytime soon. This will be with us for a long time.
Yes. Although I would have liked more clarification on what the fuck happened to Agumon at the end. Because he's sort of still there. Like, they give us that little Easter eggy thing at the end, and yeah, that was just there as a fun thing, but they sort of have then made him an Appmon in the end.
He's the Appmon based on that Digimon phone app that Haru downloaded.
Yes.
So he has become an Appmon.
Yes. The one thing I will say is the partners were done really well in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's sort of been something that's grown in, I'd say probably since around Savers. More of an effort to give the partners their own personalities.
I'd go back to Tamers for that, but yeah.
But even in Tamers to some degree, the personalities were more based on what those characters needed as kind of partial personalities themselves, is what I mean.
Well, I say that because in Tamers felt like the first time that the Digimon were actually characters.
See, I'd say that would have been 02.
I wouldn't say that.
In 02,
Wormmon maybe, but that's about it.
See, I would have said Vmon, to be honest.
Vmon had a fun personality, but I wouldn't go so far as to say he was actually a character.
Yeah, I think he was.
They all have, in Adventure and 02, they all have fun personalities, but not very rarely do they show themselves as characters. Like in Adventure, Tailmon was a character, in 02, Wormmon was a character, but that's about as far as I'd go. Tamers, all of the primary Digimon were actual characters in the show.
On this one, we're just not going to agree. I can guarantee you, this is going to be one of the ones where we're just going to go back and forth. But in Appmon, they felt generically that is like reasonably well-rounded characters. Mine, like Dokkamon and Musamon, maybe to a lesser degree, but they worked well as partners to who they were buddies with.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like Dokkamon works exceptionally well, especially, and they sort of waft on him just annoying the hell out of Eri.
Mm-hmm. And I like how they're actually friends. Like, it seems like that they're more than just that sort of partner dynamic.
Dokkamon grew on Eri.
Yes. Well,
you see that as it goes on.
Yeah, well, like, as it goes on, her not calling him Dokkamon.
Mm-hmm.
Or her calling him Doka-chan.
Yeah.
But, like, or Musamon pushing Astra forward.
Yeah. And Hackmon and Ray, like Hackmon is babysitting Ray for half the show.
Hackmon is very good in that there are personality things of Hackmon they never point out, but just sort of show up. Like, he very clearly loves sweets, but I don't think we ever get to see him eat one.
Mm-hmm.
Where anytime...
Or that he actually somehow he knows about that something happy mouse cartoon.
Yes.
Where did he get this information?
We'll never know.
Like, they frame Hackmon as a fully rounded character who has his own likes, and he's just ignoring them because they have stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really hilarious to me.
Yeah. No, Hackmon is a lot of fun.
Also, am I wrong, or did they never pull off that damn mask despite that they showed us the character design for it?
Nope.
For some reason, I wonder
if that's something that they just had to have the animators had to know what his face actually looked like just for animation purposes.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't need to know what it is if they never animated it. If it was just a shadowed face with eyes, you don't need to know what that looks like.
Maybe if you have to animate the way the hood, drapes off of him or something.
No, because
something like
because
that.
it doesn't.
I'm not saying.
No, I know, but what I mean is the way the hood sits doesn't even match his head.
Right. I don't know. Maybe that might be some intricate thing I'm not aware of. That's the only reason I can think of why they would show.
Or they designed it in case they ever had to take it off. More than likely.
Yeah, with that too.
Yeah, I mean, we know what he looks like. It's just a matter of that they never showed it in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it will shock everyone to know he looks exactly like Hackmon, basically.
He does.
Yeah. like that is one of those weird things where a lot of the designs, obviously, they're really obvious things to take from Digimon.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the main characters is wholesale a character who already exists, and that's just kind of weird.
Yeah, Hackmon looks like Hackmon. It's very strange.
Yeah. Trying to think of what's the little eye thing on his hood.
Yeah, that lights up when he's talking about creme brulee.
Yes, yes, as a personality thing. But yeah, that's like what I was saying was like he clearly loves sweets, but we never see him get to eat anything. Like, you think that would have been something they would have done at the end?
Yeah, we can hope that he got some of that creme brulee.
Yes. Oh, or we never get to see Gatchmon with his helmet off. Because they tell us a few times it is a helmet.
It is a helmet.
Yes.
It is a helmet. He even goes swimming with it on.
Yeah. Well,
wasn't that Mailmon was expecting Gatchmon to take his helmet off when he went swimming, and he just didn't?
Or like he keeps trying to take the helmet and Gatchmon keeps looking at him funny about it.
What are you doing?
I forgot all that part. That was really cute.
It's like Gabumon in his fur.
Yeah.
You just never takes it off.
Trying to think. Let's see what else.
Got most of the stuff.
I'm not shocked they didn't go into it deeper, but that Denimon could come back using his backup was interesting.
Oh, that was nice.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was basically the reverse of what Leviathan was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And did it seem odd that they had him aged up? At the end?
I thought it was aged up, but then when I was talking about this with Jay said that he's not aged up.
No, he was definitely aged up.
Now.
It looked aged up to me.
Yeah, he was.
Yes, that's what I thought.
He was definitely drawn older. He had less hair. They gave him different wrinkle lines. He was definitely drawn as if he were 10, 15 years older.
Yes, see, that's what I thought. Like, they aged him up because of the difference between his version of himself that we saw.
Yeah, it was a different character design. It was not just him older and leaned over.
Yeah.
The one thing that I know why they did it as a shortcut. I would have preferred, and they did it at least 2 times I can think of, where they applerized characters who were not Appmon. Like, I know they just did it as a shortcut to not explain what was happening, but it seemed kind of weird to me.
Which characters?
They did Leviathan and Denimon.
Oh.
Oh, right, yeah.
I gotcha.
Where they specifically applerized them, rather than just saying they've somehow... And I understand why they did it, because you don't have to explain what's happening if you say it. But it was just kind of odd to me. Although Appmon does do a lot of little stuff like that. Like, for example, like we see an Appmon who doesn't seem to have an app. I can't remember what his name was, though. It was,
Agumon? Oh, no, Agumon was part of an app, yeah.
I'm looking for the right episode.
I think I vaguely remember that, maybe.
Okay, I think this is it.
Familiar.
It was Damidamon.
Oh, yeah, the mistake one, yeah. The error one, yeah.
Like, he's the Appmon of busted up devices, basically.
Yeah,
there is
the Appmon of broken.
I believe his profile does give an app form, but like in the context of what they tell us in the show, it just doesn't exist.
He's the app that was super buggy that accidentally got released to the App Store anyway.
Yeah. Or like something happened to the phone and now there's some corrupted data.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a bunch of apps that there's a bunch of Appmon that you really wonder, is this something I can really download myself? Like,
oh no, absolutely.
Most of the god grades.
No, absolutely.
Is there an invincibility app that I can download?
Yeah, like they sort of start skewing back to just being Digimon as it goes on in various ways.
Yeah.
Like they sort of drop the idea that app fusing isn't evolution. Like later on, they're just calling it evolution. Like even
they actually call it evolution
in the episode titles and elsewhere, they literally are just saying it's evolution.
At some point, it basically is. I don't remember when the last straight up app link was. Like, was it Globemon, Shutmon?
Yes,
Shutmon and Globemon. I think was the last time they do a straight up app link without him being an app gatai.
I know they did a couple in the when they went back to the wake up off the. Get off Mon out. No, it was Wake Up the Hajime episode, I think, just after.
Did they do linking in that?
I don't think
they did.
They did linking in the one in the first championship, but I don't think they did in the second.
Yeah.
I thought they did in the second one.
I don't know.
I could be wrong.
No.
Either way,
They
not like.
I remember what it is. They didn't link, but what's his name started making copies of Dokemon.
Right.
Yeah, that copy Paimon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, that particular thing wasn't too story relevant. Yeah. Like they were just trying to wake up Sleepmon. But it's not like that was an integral fight or anything.
But yeah, it's very interesting how certain base concepts they sort of just moved on from, so they didn't have to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like. Well, it goes back to what I was saying with the God grades. We don't even get to see the app fuse there.
Right.
It's just God grades, move on.
At least they suggest that it happens. Like, we know the components for that.
Yes. So, and I think I know I can think of one more thing that we probably do have to discuss. Mm? Can either of you guess what it is?
Mm?
The shadow.
Oh no! Apparently, it's explained by one of the writers. Someone asked.
Yeah,
them
I heard about. Heard about that too. That it was.
And it was meant to be Eugen, but they ran out of time, so they didn't include it. But it's meant to be Eugen.
Wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. But again, that's.
See,
it was a cool thing, a cool mystery element they had in the first half that they just sort of forgot about.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that it's better than the alternative, which is it was just part of the stock animation, which is what I was worried about. So I'm fine with this.
See, in show, I'm not bothered by it just being stock animation to show us that it's an app fusion. I think there would have been smarter ways to do it, but I'm not really bothered by it if that's the in-show explanation for it happening.
Yeah.
Because in show, it can't be Eugen. Like that may have been the intention.
Because he never had a standard app drive. Yeah.
So in show, it is literally just a visual to show us that they are indeed app fusing. Mm-hmm. That's one of those odd things where they may have meant it to be Eugen, but there's no way for it to be in the framework of the show that they give us.
Mm-hmm. But then you can also suggest that you don't need an app drive to do app fusion, which adds a couple interesting wrinkles in there, but that's getting a little into the weeds.
Yeah. Well, they drop their own like the concept of that type of thing. They drop kind of like even having natural supers and ultimates around kind of drops that concept a bit from what we're told early on.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there were any natural ultimates around, but I suppose the Ultimate 4 were.
Yeah.
I suppose there you go.
Yeah. And of course, the Dantemon, who does not have a level and is just there.
Dantemon. I think the whole 7 code arc was kind of crap.
You know, I'm not bothered I'm not bothered by it because I think it served its purpose, which was to show us just really how dangerous Leviathan was as an actual being.
No, as far as killing Dantemon or stoning Dantemon, that part was fine. It's just that the progression of gathering the different 7 codes to summon Dantemon, like that just sort of arc doesn't really impress me all that much.
I don't think
they could have done more.
I don't think there really was an arc, to be honest.
That's
the arc was simply they have a normal episode, and oh look, he has a light bulb that he can turn off.
Yeah, basically.
Can we say Can we say how great it was when that actually happens and Gatchmon's is freaking out? You can turn it off and then you can put it away.
That was great. Yeah, and I'm also not a big. I wasn't a huge. I didn't really like Mienumon as a villain. Like, she was so all over the place in her scheming that I didn't care for.
Mienumon makes sense if they had someone controlling her.
Yeah.
I don't think she works well as the person actually pulling some of the strings early on.
Mm-hmm.
And before we move to I think it's about time to move to questions, but I believe May has to go.
Yeah, I need breakfast.
Okay, May, you can go. We'll take questions, and then that will be the end. May, why don't you say goodbye, and why don't you tell them about your horrible journey into menus before you go?
Oh, yeah, so yesterday, my boyfriend, Jay, who co-hosts Lost in Translation One with me, likes to cook. So what we did was we decided to pick some menu items from the Digimon Anion pop-up cafe, and we did the Tailmon's Omu Rice and Mimi's Drink of Purity, and it was really good. It was really good.
Yeah,
we chose the likable one.
Yeah, I was gonna say you sort of went for the softball sort of. Like some of the yogurt drinks look disgusting to me.
I'll give them a shot though, because I'm a smoothie person. There are a few that I actually kind of want to try. Gabumon's Guzzling Milk. Yeah. But I'll use actual blue curacao instead of the non-alcoholic one.
Yeah, people on the forum have started to do that, and that was apparently the one that everyone's decided to try first.
Yeah, because like I mean, it looks interesting, right?
No, it really doesn't to me.
But the other one I want to try is I think it's one of the Palmon drinks, but instead of like just regular syrup at the bottom, I'm going to try with Midori. So that's sort of like a syrupy alcoholic drink, and it's really sweet. So I think I'll try that with just the soda and the Midori at the bottom and some ice, and then the ice cream. Probably try that one next. But I also kind of wanted to invent what Marky's drink would be, and I discovered that it's just a bottle of scotch.
see, this is again where people say that I make jokes at May's expense, but she makes them before I can. Is just I was literally about to say, what is it just going to be scotch like you drink?
I think there was a flashback where she's just drinking.
Well, to be fair, like she's got a lot of drink.
There was one of Daigo's flashbacks was just a shot of Maki at the bar with a drink.
Yeah.
Relatable.
That's her life.
Okay, but yeah, that's being done on the forum. I know you're enjoying doing it.
Yeah, I want to do more. Like, there's a few that I want to try. Another one I want to try is the Gabamon's pancake one. That one sounds nice. The Patamon's pancake.
Yeah, I have to be honest. The one time that I've actually seen someone make a Japanese pancake, it was my brother's brother-in-law. It literally just made me sick in my stomach looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, it just looks like a giant clump. And I fucking love pancakes, but it was just it just looked like a giant clump of dough. It just did not look appealing to me.
Sounds good. I could do that.
Just make sure use more syrup than they included.
Oh yeah, definitely. But no, there are a few menu items that I want to try, and I think Agumon's one doesn't the mango one that doesn't sound too bad. I'm not a huge mango person, but I'll give it a shot. Are there any that have bananas in them? Because I really like making banana smoothies.
I don't think so.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Enjoy the weird coffees where they put stuff in it.
May, you're free to make banana smoothies on your own.
Oh wait, you can't have caffeine, can you?
Yeah, I can't have caffeine, but Jay likes coffee, so Jay can try the weird coffee ones. I'll do an oolong tea, because oolong tea only has a tiny bit of caffeine, so I'll probably try the Goemon's oolong tea.
Okay.
Not Goemon, Tentamon.
Yeah.
And also I want to try Goemon's Go Marching one. Also, Goemon's ramen, because that's obviously ramen.
That one, yeah, I was going to say that one's kind of a cheat, because it's just a normal dish, it looks like.
It's an excuse to have ramen.
Yeah, I have a takoyaki maker, the takoyaki pan, so I can make takoyaki.
That one.
Yeah, if you want to cheat the Goma, the one the dessert. It was just a Mont Blanc.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one's just cheating. You just need to find some place that makes a Mont Blanc. That would be it.
I want to try Mimi's the parfait one with the jelly beans.
Yeah, you know what's weird is the pictures I've seen of people at the cafe looks better than the promo photos of it.
Yeah, even the bacon wrapped asparagus, I would give that a try.
Yeah, every time I see that, it looks disgusting. The bacon doesn't look like it's cooked right or anything.
Yeah, but I'll do it. I just wish I could go back to Japan again. That was because when we were in Japan, it was just I think we left a day before a pop-up shop opened, and I was like, no.
Oh no.
Yeah, because it was just I think we flew back on September 20th or something, and it was just it was before the Chapter 3 it was coming to the theaters there, and I was just and the Halloween pop-up store was opening, and I was just like, no. Maybe next time.
Yep. Okay,
Japan was not good for my wallet.
May, Japan still isn't good for your wallet.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you have to go get breakfast. We'll let you go.
Yeah, I'm going to have breakfast, and I think Jay might be awake, so I'm going to make him walk the dog with me.
Now I'm going to brutally murder the overlay of May.
Okie dokie.
Goodbye, May.
Just put a bottle of scotch over it.
See, you say that, but next time I'm going to have a little image of scotch overlaid on you ready to go.
Scotch is the breakfast of champions.
Totally. All right, see you guys. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of the show, everyone. Bye.
Yep.
Bye.
I gathered questions while you were talking.
Okay, go ahead.
So first question was, is Appmon your favorite season?
No, but it comes very close to, at least in my opinion, being the objectively best season. But it's not my favorite.
It's definitely behind Try and Tamers for me, if you count Try as a season. I know that's always a a thing. I have to revisit Sabers a little bit, because Appmon definitely finished above Adventure for me. There are enough things that I remember being frustrated about with Sabers that I need to give that another look.
Yeah.
To see if Appmon ends up above or below Sabers. But it's definitely behind Tamers.
It's basically a topic that will be discussed in the future. Appmon's also a little too fresh at the moment.
That too. And also, I haven't seen Sabers in Japanese since it first came out.
Okay.
So it's been a while, but right now I would say Sabers is ahead, but that's where it falls for me. Appmon being counting Try, it would be fourth.
Okay. Next up.
For Digimon, how come we have never have a crossover with Toei, have a crossover with another franchise like Dragon Ball or One Piece?
Because when Digimon was popular, well, one crossover.
But One Piece, I think, is a timing thing.
Yeah. It's also a matter of crossovers tend to be more like for like in franchises, and Digimon just doesn't necessarily mesh well with those. Yeah. And like, even when you look at, say, Dragon Ball and One Piece, which do mesh well, it's not like they've had deep crossovers. They had, I believe, one manga which recast every character as someone else. There's been a couple gag things, but there hasn't really been any sort of deep crossover type thing.
And you almost can't count manga crossovers.
Yeah. I mean, unless you want to count some battle games, but even then, at that point, okay, you've had a crossover between Optimus Prime and Simon Belmont.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Next question, what do you hope for news on Appmon in one of the upcoming magazines? I think Animedia Deluxe had mentioned Appmon being on the cover for their new issue. Yeah. I don't know if that was the same one that we got the Try artwork from, but...
No, because that's just Animedia.
Okay.
I'm not really expecting... I'd expect just normal...
Because Try was on the cover of that one, too.
Yeah, I would expect just normal end-of-series stuff. I'm not really expecting any huge Appmon articles at this point.
Yeah, I would expect maybe another piece of artwork to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah.
Would be kind of what I would anticipate. I wouldn't expect any news at this point.
Okay, next.
When do you think the English dub for Appmon will be in America?
Anytime between now and the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where we are going to get it, but it's a matter of when and who and how.
That was, I think, the biggest one with getting the French announcement was it reassured me that at some point we're going to get it.
Yeah.
Like, without that,
see, that doesn't mean anything to me because it's such a completely different market. They get shows that we don't get all the time.
Yeah.
It is a different market. It just tells us what we already knew, which was that Toei has been trying to sell it internationally, which we already knew anyways.
And that's what I'm getting at. That not only is it still trying to, but it has successfully somewhere.
Okay.
Which gives me hope.
Yeah.
Let's see. Would you want a Digimon Cyber Sleuth anime?
No.
I think they'd have to change some things, but I totally wouldn't mind it.
But what I mean is if they do a Cyber Sleuth anime, it's not going to be exactly what people think, which is just the game story. That's just not going to happen at this point.
I think you could use the game story as a framework, but I think you have to do more with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. It's not going to be the sort of very...
You can't just do there's 20 chapters of the game, there are 20 episodes, and each episode covers a chapter.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay.
But I mean, it's like you look at something like the Persona 4 anime, and they had plenty of...
Yeah.
They deviated there.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Do you hope that Appmon will make cameos in future installments of Digimon?
I expect at some point it will just be swallowed up.
What do you mean by swallowed up?
It will just be swallowed up and we'll see Appmon stuff showing up in Digimon.
Okay.
The level... Like, the whole reason that they give us about Frontier and Cross not showing up a lot is how confusing trying to fit the levels in for them is. Appmon's already done that.
When you say swallowed up, I didn't know if you meant like it would be swallowed up as if it would be fully incorporated, or you meant swallowed up as if it was going to be Frontier and Cross Wars exclusive Digimon.
I mean It is very, very easy to incorporate Appmon into the overall framework, which is something that has, for whatever reason, confused the fuck out of Bandai in a few other cases.
Yeah, the levels lined up very nicely.
Yeah,
and in the dub Ultimate is the same.
Yeah, but yeah, the levels line up nicely. You shrink down the god grades a bit, and they fit in nicely. And sizes change so much in Digimon, anyways. It works perfectly fine for me.
Yeah, I hope they do.
Yeah.
Is Eri best girl?
Sure, why not? She's fighting it out with Mimi over best girl.
Yeah, I have her third behind Mimi and Ruki.
Okay.
So that's where she's up there for sure.
She may not be.
She's strong. She's the best. She's the best, female character we've had since.
Yes.
Dating back.
I'll go ahead and say it. She's at least in the top 10, just like she was in the show.
Well, there's.
Yeah.
She's 10. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. I could see almost any argument as long as she's in the top 3 or 4.
Right.
Like, I would have no issue as long as someone didn't try to say she's the worst. I don't really have an issue where you place her, but she's near the top at the very least.
I ranked them out. I think you asked that at one point a few weeks ago, and May asked.
Yeah, I believe it.
May asked that recently, and I'm just like, here's my ranking.
Yeah, I believe at the time we had her around 2 or 3, and that was almost universal.
Yeah, I think I had her at third.
Okay.
And frankly, when you're talking top 10, you're only squeezing out a couple by that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that was just joking based on her placement in the show.
Yeah. It's like sorry, Izumi. Who can defeat Goku which Digimon character can defeat Goku? I would say Masaru, but that might be my Saber's bias.
I think AR needs to screen the questions better.
I just took everything.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said you need to screen them better.
This is one, I don't know if you have a response to this. If you think Appmon would be kind of similar to Diablomon because of,
No.
the idea of being an internet-based thing.
No, because they're all sort of internet digital creatures. It's just it's a different framework, basically. Yeah.
Also, Appmon are specifically phone apps, and that's not what.
Yes.
That's not what they're about.
Yeah.
They're not what Diablomon's about. I asked for elaboration this before. Is whether Rei is the best dark character from the Digimon seasons. I'm going to immediately say no, but I kind of wanted a definition as to what.
I think he's saying, like, is Rei the best? Like,
I got it. Is like a loner.
No,
a sign of a loner where he just pops in and out of nowhere and is a badass, and that I would say.
Rei is an interesting character. They only even really give him like 1 or 2 really dark moments, and they're kind of more cartoony dark than anything else.
I think he has some proper dark moments.
Oh no, there is, but they're always in the very, very cartoony framework that they've given him.
Yeah.
Like they're too willing to jump in and have him do things that are meant to be wacky, even if he's not being wacky himself.
And also for a so-called dark character, he has a really happy ending.
Yeah.
He's really happy by the end of the story.
Yeah. But yeah,
that can't happen if you're a dark character.
Yeah, it's hard to frame him as the dark. It's not that he's the dark character. He's just the character who never really joins the team.
Yeah.
He's the loner type character. He's not really the dark character though.
Mm-hmm. What are the chances we get an Appmon season 2?
I keep weighing my hands on this one, to be honest.
Prior to the last episode, I would have said it feels like something that could definitely happen, but I thought the ending was pretty solid.
Yeah.
And like it felt like we didn't need anything more after that.
Yeah. Any number chance we say would purely be pulling it out of our ass, to be honest. Like, I couldn't even, like, there is no framework they give us for, and another adventure might happen. We haven't been told another one might happen.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we've had is the actors musing that they would like to do more.
Right.
But then what actor doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very good show, and I would not mind seeing the characters more. If that was the end of it, though, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that position.
I also wouldn't be overly shocked if they did the next Digimon series and it was something more with Appmon in a new universe.
Yeah, well, yeah, just have same Appmon, different characters.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know that I'm expecting more.
Mm-hmm. Gotta ask this one. Will you be the protagonist? Yes or no?
Well, that's one of those things that the show did, and I'm not sure a lot of people got. And they bring it up once or twice. Everyone's the protagonist. That's the point.
That's sort of, yeah. That's the ultimate.
Everyone's the protagonist of their own story, and the entire point was that was Haru going to reach for it or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because as he is early on, he's not going to. He's just doing whatever it is he feels like he's going to do.
Yes. That's sort of why it was so cool to have that at the end.
Yes.
To say, like, this is your call.
But I think a lot of people kind of missed that. That it was almost a message that everyone is the protagonist of their own story.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of if it's a story worth telling.
Did you hit the button at the end of the last episode?
No.
I tried to get a picture of Lucas pushing it. It didn't go well.
Did your baby attack you, AR?
No, but he likes to randomly push buttons on the laptop, so trying to keep a screen on pause that wasn't in the cards.
Okay, I can imagine that.
Let's see. What do you think of the God Grade Appmon compared to Shoutmon times 7 Superior?
It was basically the same concept. I think Shoutmon Cross 7 Superior looked much more like I would have preferred, like, it looks like you want it to look. Mm-hmm. Whether that's good or bad compared to the Appmon designs is kind of a personal thing. I would have much more preferred the God Grades look more Appmon-y. I understand why they didn't. Because for, like, Appmon does sort of work on a 3+1 system rather than a 4 system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the God Grades are treated as something different. They're not just another level. And I understand that doing an insanely different visual style makes sense. I'm just not sure I was happy with how they looked, regardless of understanding that.
Let's see. This one just recently popped up is, did you feel Impmon truly deserved redemption, or did he get it too happy of an ending? I think he earned his redemption.
Yeah, I think he earned it. I mean, it's one of those things, and sometimes we say it, it's come up a bit more. Is to some degree these are children's cartoons. It's not. We are not going to see the character, go through years of self-actualization and stuff. Mm-hmm. He attempted to do better. He did better. He got his happy ending based on that everything bad he did was based on him having a sad beginning.
Also, part of it was that the reason he did those terrible things wasn't because he is naturally terrible, but because he was kind of coerced into that path. Which makes his redemption a little more attainable.
Yeah, but even the Tamer season as a whole, especially early on, treats some of that stuff happening as just sort of how it happens. Now, obviously, he still does it later on to some degree, but Renamon and Ruki aren't really bothered doing that sort of thing early on.
Yeah.
Judging him on it just because they've decided not to do it anymore sort of is judging him unfairly. I mean, none of them early on are that bothered by blowing up Digimon and then taking their data.
I think it was the idea that they were his friends, in particular.
Yeah. But I mean, I get what you mean, but a lot of that stuff was also treated as.
But either way, we're coming to the same conclusion that his redemption was fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, look, if it was an hour-long drama, then no, maybe it wouldn't have been a fine redemption. For what the show was, it makes perfect sense, and it worked fine for me, at least. And I believe it worked fine for AR also.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot here, but I have an answer to this. What is your ranking for Gogglehead protagonists?
Taichi, Haru, Daisuke, Taiki. Let's see, I'm thinking of... See, I'm not sure I'm trying to think... Let's see.
This is why I say I put you
Takado.
On the spot when I did that rankings. When I did that one like is one Digimon opinion, this was one of mine.
Yeah. The rest I'd sort of rank around. Takuya, Masaru, and Tageru I'd sort of all rank kind of near the bottom.
Okay. Mine was, I have Taichi, Takado, Haru, Masaru, Daisuke, Taiki, Takuya, Tageru. I'm reading that straight off of my my
and at the top of all of them is the greatest goggle hero, Appmon.
Well, yeah. They're talking besides Appmon.
Yeah, and at the top,
Appmon's number one.
At the top, at the top of all of them is Manga Taichi.
Oh yeah. Tsurugi Tatsuno from Next sneaks up there.
I actually think like Tsurugi doesn't get enough credit because he's always going to be in Next is always going to be in V-Tamer's shadow, but Next is interesting.
It's interesting.
It's especially interesting.
I don't remember a whole lot about it.
It's especially interesting because
I found it interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I found it interesting. It's the only time they do anything else with Yggdrasil.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I thought Yggdrasil was kind of.
Yeah.
I thought the position Yggdrasil was taking in X Evolution was kind of interesting, even if we didn't really get to see Yggdrasil itself.
Okay.
In your belief, what happened to the citizens of Cyber Kaolu now that Leviathan is gone?
Nothing. They're still there doing what they're doing.
I agree. They're still
like the fact that they were vaguely on his side. They're on his side because he was just.
He was the one that was promising them the most.
Yes.
Now that he's gone, they will latch on to something else that's promising, or they'll fend for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they don't.
Like it wasn't Leviathan Town where he controlled everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
Right. And it's like that's not like Deep Web and Dark Web are going away either. Those still exist.
Yes.
Those exist in real life, and Leviathan hopefully doesn't.
Yep.
Let's see. What characters would you want to be? Don't know if that's I don't know if I want to be any of them. They're way too traumatic.
Yeah.
I like having a comfortable existence and not fighting for my life every week.
Yeah. AR can be the no guy. No.
Be the no guy. I am the no guy. That's my life in general.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's hard to judge because they are not necessarily fully rounded cartoon characters.
You know, and hey, about No Guy, he has a lot of fun careers.
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff with his life. He is a very active.
Yes, he is.
He goes into space.
He is the single most
doctor.
He's the single most rounded and advanced character in the franchise.
He's got to have a lot of money.
Yes.
If he could just take side trips randomly and
to be fair,
Paris.
He's an astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like he's clearly some sort of avant-garde billionaire.
Yeah, he's Richard Branson. No Guy is Richard Branson.
Yep.
Let's see. We've caught up on the chat, by the way, if you want to look over these.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, the hype. Talking about you, Haru. The hype over Yujin and Haru is all reading too much into it if the writers actually had it in mind. I think the writers did have it in mind to kind of push that friendship in that direction, and I think they kind of had to get the point across.
It's a combination of plot necessity along with mild baiting. But here's the truth: fans were already doing that before they started doing baiting.
Yeah, I think there was some really interesting romantic imagery, but in the end, I think it still comes down to baiting.
Yes,
like they're trying to
they're putting the friendship at such a level so that when it happens, which everyone knows it's going to, is like, oh man, they're really the best of friends, and oh no.
Yeah, they will do whatever they can to make us excited about Yuharu because they have to.
Yes.
It's the entire ending is driven.
But it wasn't really a relationship thing.
No, we're all free to ship it. I mean, I totally ship it, but it was never going to happen.
Yes, it was generic anime baiting like happens in almost any anime. I mean, it's not. I mean, you know what I mean, right? Like, not.
I wrote about it when it first happened.
It's pretty standard baiting. Going back decades in shows.
Yeah, if you actually expected Eugene and Haru to end up in a romantic relationship together, you were going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
No matter what happened.
Yes.
Oh wait. Yggdrasil versus Leviathan.
I don't think either of them was really that interesting at an overall level. I think discussing them at a more minimal level, there's some interesting stuff, but they were kind of...
With Yggdrasil, it depends on which Leviathan...
But like in the case of Leviathan, they even say constantly in the show, he's the last boss. That's all he is.
And in Try, he basically is the last boss. Yggdrasil is basically the...
But what I mean is in Appmon, they say he's the last boss every fucking time they talk about him. I mean, that tells us overall how thin that concept is when you have to keep going, he's the last boss. He's the last... I mean, they say it in every episode.
And there aren't too many cases where Yggdrasil has a whole ton of personality.
No, like, but there is...
might be an example. I think, Saber's is kind of an example, but that's about it.
Yeah, but there is something to be said for just letting him be there rather than having to tell us every episode that he's the last boss. I mean, for all my joking, I mean, it's not a joke that it's a cartoon, and Appmon has some great cartoony moments. That's kind of even pushing it a bit, just in how constantly they're telling us about how he's the last guy.
That and the initial "Are you the protagonist?" thing. It's a little self-aware.
Yes, a little, and self-aware in not a positive way. It's just a bit too easy. Wait. Why do you think we never see Hackmon's face? Because they just didn't. There was no need to show us his face. It's like there was no plot that if they needed him to not have his coat on, we probably would have seen his face. It just wasn't necessary.
He should have gone with them to that haunted hot springs resort.
Yep.
That was the thing. Let's see. Do you think Leviathan's good or bad, or just wants to help the humans?
Well,
I think it was. I think it was.
He's following his programming as he saw fit. That's not.
Yeah.
That in itself is not good or bad, but as they put it, he also followed his own rules, and he wasn't necessarily really clear on how much he was really doing.
Right.
So
I wouldn't call Leviathan necessarily good or evil.
Yeah. He was doing bad things. Let's go with that. But he was following what he saw as his programming in his own manner.
See, someone's asking if Leviathan may have backed itself up somewhere. That's speculative. And
well, that's always like the sequel speculation type stuff.
Right.
Did he back himself up somewhere?
No. If they want Leviathan to
come
back
they need him back, yeah, exactly.
If they want him to come back in season 2, then yes.
Exactly. It's sort of like in the context of Digimon Adventure. Did they completely defeat Myotismon/Famdemon? Yes, they did. In the case of sequels, no, they didn't.
Is neither.
The correct answer is let's say Lilymon.
There you go. What happened to Watson and I? They were never that important.
No, they really weren't. I feel like people kept thinking they were going to be important. But the show never.
I wanted a little more out of just because of that funky bookstore basement.
But there was no. But in reality, the funky bookstore basement was just and now they have a private base. Yeah. I know, and of course, Denimon secretly worked there.
Mm-hmm. Which made more sense than anything. Like, that's something that actually happens.
Yes.
Like, they'll rent out a private room in the library or something. That's totally a thing that happens. Which two characters' bonds did you enjoy the most?
Honestly, Haru and Gatchmon.
I really liked the growth between Eri and Astra. I think that
there is some very interesting stuff there, going from the beginning of them just outright not liking each other to them really supporting each other in various ways.
Yeah, and just developing that immense respect, which then turns into a friendship, which then turns them into stealing each other's catchphrases at the very end.
I do have to say, I think one of my favorite things, because I was doing it at first and then sort of stopped, was in the clip show, them pointing out how much each one of them said their catchphrase.
That was the only interesting thing in that clip show.
But yeah, for me, I pick Haru and Gatchmon because, at least in the confines of the show, I feel like if you don't believe those characters, the show doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's a really strong partnership they have,
and it does end up mattering in the end of the plot as happening in the last few episodes. Like, that really matters.
Question about if Arena, Alice, and Eri the only ones who joined Onozaki Productions, or is all of Applyama 470?
They didn't give us any information about that.
My guess would be it's somewhere in between. I'm sure Onozaki didn't get everybody. She probably has a very small group.
Yeah. But in the context of the show, we only see those three, I believe.
Onozaki, assuming that it's a kind of a small operation that Onozaki runs, she would not be able to handle the logistics of having 470 idols. I'm surprised Elcor could handle the logistics of having 470 idols.
Yeah, I would have...
That was a bit ridiculous.
I was going to say they should have done like 47, to be honest. Like, they went with the number to make it sound amazing, but it's one of those cases where the cartooniness maybe went a step too far.
Mm-hmm. Well, they also said it was the 470 based on how many apps there are. I want them to show their math on that, because that doesn't sound right.
Well, see, and that's where it goes to sometimes Appmon sort of trips over itself.
Mm-hmm.
They point out later on, they were having them vote so they could collect information on them. Except a few episodes before, everyone started using their operating system, so they'd have that stuff anyways.
Which was an unintended consequence of the scheming, which I didn't understand.
Well, it wasn't unintended. That was part of the plan, was to have everyone using their software.
I thought it was Mienumon just being spiteful. Like, she was just out of spite trying to, and then...
No, because remember...
no.
The idea was that if their stuff got virus, they would all be using LOS.
Mm-hmm. All right, and Mienumon was happily surprised that even though that the virus got resolved, that they switched over anyway. Yeah. That's right.
But they're all running their operating system in the first place. You don't have to have them install an app to get their information.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's one of those things where it's like they did a plot that they didn't need to do.
What if Leviathan and D-Reaper fused together? I actually wrote a little bit about this, that Leviathan was the reason D-Reaper existed.
I don't think anyone would like my answer to this.
Is it Ordinamon?
No, my answer is I don't care. Like, it just jumps a bit too, for lack of a better phrase, a little bit too fanficky for me to just start going, and they fuse, and what do you get out of it?
Fusing together it's not compatible.
Like plot-wise, I have no issue with characters fusing together, but just going, if characters A and B fused, what would happen? I mean, they're both giant evil things anyways. It's just going to
giant evil monstrosity ending humanity is what you end up with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind that happening, but they already are that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like what was the one in it was one of the Digimon story games, in fact, where it's literally just the heads of like 10 different giant Digimon. In fact, I think it was one of the ones they showed the art of in the art book.
Oh, okay.
It's here, I'll throw it in the chat here just so everyone can see it. Like, it is just a giant monstrosity thing that... Like, it's literally just a bunch of heads and different weapons and stuff.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can see a smaller version of it right above.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. It's just kind of...
It's just, it's a blah.
Yeah.
That was all the questions we have, so it'd probably be a good idea to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I did want to say one thing. So I've done this every time after Try is... after I finish the System Restore reviews, is to sit down and live tweet my wife watching Try. So that's going to be happening tonight, in about 3 hours. So stick around on Twitter for that.
I will probably not put that in the notes because that will already be done, but I believe Twitter started doing that story feature. So if that gets added to your account and you're able to do that, then we'll add that to show notes later or mention it next time.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. I don't know.
Yeah, where you can create like a story out of a line of tweets. So we'll see if that can be done, and if so, we'll mention it next time. Thank you everyone for watching.
Either way, if you're watching this afterwards, then just go back on my account and you'll find it.
And also, make sure to tell AR that no, we don't need to see the D Reaper and Leviathan combined. I know he wasn't the one who answered the question, but I
wasn't. I wasn't answering the exact question. I'm just saying I mentioned the D Reaper.
But I can hear the wheels turning in your head.
Oh.
So
I'd be lying if I said that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So tell AR it doesn't matter. Thank you everyone for showing up. Make sure to like and subscribe us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at With the Will. AR is at First Agent ARP. You can follow May at It's just TranslationMon on Twitter, I believe. All of this will be in the notes. I always lose track of all the Twitter accounts. You can find us in the Discord, of course, where me and AR have many friendly arguments as people watch on. And you can also join our Patreon. Thank you everyone for showing up. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.